What is up, guys? So in today's video I'm going to be showing you guys how I made a PvP wizard game in just 3 days, inspired by the game Firewall, which you guys are watching gameplay of in the background right now. So for this game I spent about 3 days. Not all day of each 3 days was working on the game, so not quite as much was done as I would have liked, but still a decent amount was done and made a nice playable game, and I plan on adding a lot more to the game in the future, and I want your guys' feedback down below to help me with some things. So without further ado, let's hop right into the video. Alright, so when we first hopped in on day 1, we immediately got to work setting up our main game scene and building a level 1 for our characters to fight on. So I downloaded this tile map off of itch. I just found a simple dungeon tile set because tile sets I'm not good at them. So I just decided, instead of spending all day long learning how to make one and perfecting it, I'm just going to download one. I made everything else that you're going to see today by hand in a Sprite, including all the characters and their animations and abilities. So yeah, so we hopped in immediately making platforms and stuff to jump around. It did take me a bit to kind of figure out exactly how I want it to look, and this probably won't be the final version of the map. We'll probably be changing it up later and also adding new levels to switch between. So this was the final version that I came up with, except for those pots that you see. Those get removed a bit later because they were hovering. Didn't realize it at the moment, but it's fine. So after that, we immediately hop into creating our first character. So I designed these characters the night before day 1. I hopped into a Sprite and found a little animation template and based off that to help with the animations. So here's what we have. We have the Fire Wizard was our first character, and then our second character you're gonna see is a Ice Wizard. So here is all of his animations. This is her animation, his death animation I liked. He just turned into a tombstone. And it's basically the same for the Ice Wizard up next. It's the same animations, just a different character. Okay, so next we started making the script for our Fire Wizard. So we put in the built-in Godot movement script that Godot comes with and just added this in, since it's made for 2D side-scroller movement, and that's the same type of movement we have here. So we added that in, set up an input map, and then we loaded the game up to see how it would work. So right off the bat, the character's way too fast, jumps way too high, all minor stuff that can be changed with literally just the click of a button. And also, our platforms do not have one-way collision yet, so we're going to change that soon too. Alright, so all we have to do to change that is simply go in the code and change these numbers here, and it can adjust our player's speed and jump velocity. So already we can see that our character looks and feels a lot better, although without animations he's not going to feel great quite yet, but that will be added in later on. Now, one thing that I'm going to test here is I want to make sure that our node flipping is working properly, and that when our character turns, it doesn't just flip the sprite. So add a collision shape here to see if it flips the whole thing, and it does. The reason I want this is because our character has a marker 2D in front of him that will be the spawn point for his abilities, and we want that to always be in front of him. So we don't want the sprite to flip when he turns around and the marker to still be behind him. So that seemed to work out well. Now we start working on our next wizard, the Ice Wizard, here, just so we can test everything out together. I made 2 at once. That way damage, death, interaction, all that stuff works together. So this was pretty easy. The setup was almost identical to the Fire Wizard, and same thing with code. I pretty much just copied over the code and changed the inputs. So as we can see here, it works very well, interacts together perfectly fine, as you'll see in a minute. They can collide, stand on top of each other. I might later make it so damage can be done by jumping on the other player's head. I don't know. I'll figure it out. Now we're going to start working on the first ability in the game, the Fireball, which is obviously going to be the Fire Wizard's main ability. My plan is to make every character have 4 abilities each, the cooldown getting gradually longer for every ability, and also each ability becoming more and more powerful. Now, this is going to be the main attack, meaning that it has a relatively low cooldown of just half a second and only 10 damage. Now, at the moment, we don't have a animation for it or a sprite, just because I wanted to make sure like it actually worked before I started adding art to it. Now, as you see, it moves, but it's not perfect, as it does not shoot to the left and it only shoots to the right. But that's okay. We go in and we fix it a lot. The code gets pretty long. Later on, I'll include the code for everything at the end of the video if you guys would like to see that. So here I was just testing out if it would damage the player who shot the fireball, and thankfully, due to some checks, it does not. And we also added a damage and die function, so now it can kill the other player in the game. So that pretty much sums up day 1, and now we'll be moving into day 2. Alright, so on day 2, I hopped immediately into a sprite to start making the sprites for our main abilities. So this is the Snowball sprite, which is the Ice Wizard's main ability. Unfortunately, I was not recording when I made the Fireball sprite, so I'm sorry, the process isn't here, I just don't have it. I'm sorry about that, but it's okay, you will see that when we hop into Godot and I start showing it to you in a minute. Alright, now that we have the Snowball into Godot, we add its collisions and everything and all of its animations. We already have all the code set up, and now we can see that it works nicely. It deals 5 damage and has a fire rate of 0.25, while the Fireball has a fire rate of 0.5 but does 10 damage. I didn't want to make them both have the same fire rate and same damage. I wanted to give each character, their own pros and cons, and feed to different people's playstyle. So there you just saw the Fireball, and now we are going to work on the hurt animations. That way our player has something to show when they're actually getting hit and taking damage. Later on, we're going to add UI and actually have like health bars and stuff in the top corner. But for now, we have this. So as you see, it flashes red real quick whenever your character gets hit and takes damage. So now we are going to work on the death animation. So I like the death animation a lot, honestly. Your character jumps up, flashes red real quick, and then turns into a tombstone. Originally, I was just going to keep the same tombstone for everyone, but then I decided to make them a little bit more custom and make the color of the writing and dust the color that matches the wizard. So both animations worked perfectly fine when we put them into Godot. So next up, we are going to get into the second ability for each character. So for the Ice Wizard, its second ability is going to be the Ice Spikes ability. When the player is standing on the ground, it can spawn in ice spikes that shoot upward and damage the player for 30 damage. Now, it also has a collision shape, so you can stand on it or run into it. Now, this ability is disabled unless your player is standing on the ground to avoid ice spikes from just spawning in the middle of the air. Now, I debated whether or not the ice spike should have a collision shape that blocks projectiles, meaning the player could use it almost like a shield. Wasn't sure if this was going to be too broken or not. Think I'll wait until more abilities are added and see if it should be implemented in the game. But this pretty much sums up day 2 for the most part. Here's a little clip of the ice spikes without any cooldown, which is pretty cool. But anyway, next up we're going to move on to day 3, which was this morning actually. Alright, day 3. So I immediately hopped into a sprite to work on the Fire Wizard's second ability, which would be the Wall of Fire, where it shoots up a wall of fire that travels and pushes players out of the way. Now, as we can see here, the first concept looks absolutely horrible. And once I realized this, I kind of sat back for a minute, and eventually I decided on this new design here. I like this way better. It took me a bit to think of this because when I looked for reference, there's almost no references anywhere, no matter where I looked, to find a pixel wall of fire. So I kind of had to come up with this on my own. But in the end, I did end up liking this design a lot, and I'm actually pretty proud of it. Alright, so now that we have it into Godot, a lot of this coding for the Firewall is going to be pretty similar to the Fireball, since they're essentially the same thing, except one's just larger than the other and has a collision shape. Now, I was thinking about adding direct knockback to it, where when it hits the player like bounces off of it. But in the end, I decided to just add a solid collision shape that makes it push the player. So I wanted to make it relatively tall, which I think we achieved pretty well. And as we can see here, I don't have the is on floor command here, so it allowed me to spawn it anywhere, which we did need to fix, but it's okay, we got that fixed. Here we add the collision shape to push the player, and I liked it a lot, and for now I'm going to keep it. If you guys have any idea on if I should change it, feel free to let me know. But for now I'm going to keep it. And both this ability and the Ice Spikes ability have a 10-second cooldown. So thank you guys for watching. This is the progress we have so far, and please let me know down below what you guys think the next 2 abilities for each character should be. Again, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.